Good day to all of you. I hope everybody's doing well and we're into more or less the middle of September. I hope things are working out well for everybody and that some of you may be getting some nice crisp weather change, at least those in the northern hemisphere. I hope you're enjoying it. Today I've got a quote from a man who was considered an essayist. He wrote things for a living and wrote articles and that kind of stuff. He was also a critic, a literary critic of other things, but his name was Kenneth Burke. And his comment was, and his quote was something that I've alluded to before, but I want to go into in more depth today. The quote, "A way of seeing is also a way of not seeing." Now, that's really simple and it really seems obvious, but I'd like to go into it in maybe ways that you haven't thought about before, or maybe ways that I've sort of touched on, but I want to go into it again. Now, I know I've said something like I've held up the marker and I say that, when I'm looking at this and it's got print over here, but when you're looking at it, there's nothing here. So in one sense, yes, the quote is saying that the way I'm seeing it when I'm looking at the print is that I'm not seeing this side. Now, in this particular case, because I'm looking at the computer, I can see it and see both sides. But the other part to it is I can't see both at the same time. I'd have to switch, from one to the other. So I could switch my eyes and go back and forth, but I can't see both sides at the same time. Okay? But the other part I'd like to discuss, which goes into a bit more deeper, goes into this a bit more deeply, is the idea that when we're taking a look at who we are and what we do in the world in which we live, we see things as we think they are. But if you stop to think about it, the person next to you or the people that are close to you, you could live in the house with 10 people. And you could all look at, say, one piece of furniture the same way, but each one of those 10 people are going to have a different way of looking at that piece of furniture. The furniture is it, but they're going to have different things to think about. Some of you are going to see it as old and decrepit. Some may think of it as an antique. Some people might look at it as a place to have fun at because that's where they've had a lot of activities or some such thing like that around it. So that what's going on is that when you're looking at things, whether they be live or inanimate, to a great degree, you're looking at it with your history. You're looking at what happened. You're looking at what you associate with that, or not, as the case may be. Since I mentioned furniture, let's say you go into a furniture store and you're seeing a piece of furniture you've never seen before in your life. But some of the furniture you're going to react to, not because of the furniture that you see for the first time in the store, but you're looking at it with a reaction based on the furniture you've seen in your past. So maybe, I'm tall, which you can't tell from this. I like sofas that if I lean back, I've got something back here that I can lean on. I really don't like the things that sort of like stop at my, pretty much like at my shoulder blades kinds of things. I like, in a sense, if I'm going to go over there to relax, something with a tall back to it. So when I take a look at a sofa in a store, see that I've never seen before, I'm already going to have a reaction to it based on how short or tall the back is. So some of them I'm just going to reject out of hand immediately without even really giving any thought to anything, simply because if I sit in it, it's not going to come up to maybe here or something like that. So you see where I'm coming from? So that my past, my present, all of that comes together based on the things I've been doing and thinking and essentially living and seeing for my entire life. Now let's think in terms of how this impacts you and your future, which is one of the things I said about this. When you're starting to say something like, I can't do this, or all I see is failure, or that infamous phrase that most of us have said at some point in time, I keep doing the same thing over and over, and why do I keep ending up in the same place? I keep getting the wrong man. I keep failing this. I keep doing this. It's because to some degree, when you see certain stimuli, you're reacting to it the way you've reacted to the stimuli before. Even though it may be a completely different stimuli, you're still looking at it the way you looked at something before. In a sense, the way I was just talking about the couch. Could be something most beautiful, wonderful thing in existence, but if it's not going to have the back is not going to be tall enough, I'm going to discount it immediately. So there might be a lot of other things that might be really great couches that I'm not looking at because I'm judging couches by that one particular detail. We all judge people by details, whether they're fat, skinny, tall, short, old, whatever you got. So you walk in and take a look into, if you're walking into a class, how many times have you judged an instructor simply by the way the teacher looked, because the teacher reminded you of somebody else that you'd had as a teacher before? Or you're taking a look at a subject and you're automatically saying, I can't do this. Just because you couldn't do it once in the past, you're automatically judging that you're not going to be able to do it again. So you're not seeing any other possibilities other than what you've already saw, because that's what's already happened. So you're creating, in a sense, your future by living in the past, by reacting to things in the same way that they used to be way back when in ancient history. And if you think in terms of it, the things that you couldn't do when you were 12 or 18 or 19, and now you might be 30 or 40, you're, in a sense, looking at the world at the way you looked at those things when you were younger. How many of you remember when you were, let's just say 18 or 20, being able to do a lot of things that you can't do now? But you keep trying to do some of them, thinking that you should be able to do them, without realizing that you've added another 10 or 20 years to your life. And that's kind of like, changed your body a bit. And then you get surprised when you get sore. You think you're going to be able to go out and do a lot of extra work or do, run or whatever it is. And then you get surprised about, why am I so sore? Because you're seeing, in a sense, you and your behavior the way you did when you were originally doing it like 10 years ago. On the other hand, when you do something that you see as being successful, or once you do something now that's successful, you belittle it because, oh, well, this was just luck. It's not going to happen again because I've never been able to do it before. So this was just luck. So you're not seeing it in the sense that this is something that you can actually maybe like change, that maybe you can do it now. And before might have just been the luck that you couldn't do it at that point in time for whatever reason. Because it's possible, let's just say you were 20 and you tried to do something you couldn't. Maybe you don't remember, but maybe you were sick, or maybe you were getting sick, or maybe you were fatigued, lack of sleep or some such thing like that. You don't remember the circumstances around the reason why it didn't work before, but you're already, in a sense, putting the end result on whatever you're trying to do now without recognizing that the two circumstances are totally different. Okay? So you're seeing your future and you're looking at those things in the same way you saw your past. If you want a different future, you've got to see it in a different way and start telling yourself that, let me give it a try, see what happens. Now, I'm not saying that everything's going to work out beautifully. That's not what I'm saying. But if you take a look at it and saying, okay, I haven't been able to do this before, but that doesn't mean I can't do it. Let's see if there's something I can do now. Can I get some help? Is there another tool? Is there a piece of technology? Is there something going around that's going to help me do something now that I couldn't do before? Because let's say, again, I've said before, a lot of people say they can't do math or can't do algebra. Okay, so maybe you had trouble in the past. Maybe you had a poor teacher. Again, maybe you were stressed for some other reasons. So maybe if you had a different teacher, there's different technologies. Somebody can help you, that maybe they can get through to you, in a sense, by explaining things to you today that they couldn't somehow manage to do it before, because now you've had more real life experience with numbers. You've done some things. For example, when I said, what was it, a week or so ago, when I said that calculating your gas mileage is doing algebra, I dare say that a lot of people get surprised at that. So if you start looking at something, you seeing it in a different way means you can actually do something, that you didn't think you could, which then starts changing your future because you see the possibilities that exist instead of shutting them off because you think that you can't do them. Okay? Hopefully this makes sense. I hope this gave you some things to think about. Share it with somebody if you think it would be helpful, and please let me know what you think. If you want me to keep going in this vein, or if you want me to shut up and talk about something else, that would be helpful too. But hopefully you've got a good week, and I hope I've given you something to think about, and we will see you later. Bye.